comes slowly in the list. But, I don't know, I think it's nice, because to just read item number 10, item number 11, item number 12, it doesn't sink in.
And to hear from realization, that's always more effective.
Well, everyone has their level, small, a little bit more, a little bit more. What we've realized, like Prabhupada said, even in the early days, he encouraged his disciples to write. There's a tape of him telling it. Every day you should write 2 lines, 4 lines. What you have realized from hearing the acharyas. So when devotees sit together, they share their realizations. And that's the beauty of this process, because everyone has some realization. They have their own personal experience. And when that's shared amongst the devotees, then, as the Upadeshamrita is telling, 6 exchanges. Right? Know that verse? You know? The Sanskrit verse? Dadati Akyati Prichati. Then Bhukte Bojayate Chaiva Shadvidham Priti Lakshanam. Lakshanam means the symptoms. Good. No, that's the initial stage of knowing verses, is to, you've already got it there, you know, but not the full. So you have to fill in the spaces and then get the complete one, then use it, and like that. It takes time, especially with us oldies. Okay. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pridayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Trise Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshai Kriptashtraka Madi Tarangamadi Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali, at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Diksha and Siksha Gurudevs Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Ashtatara Sata Sri Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Ashtatara Sata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sri Dhara Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering my Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And I offer my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So we're still continuing with the reading of the list, the 64 limbs of bhakti, and the section is titled The 64 Limbs of Bhakti are Tat Tat Karma, because the item in the list of 6 favorable items of Rupa Goswami for bhakti is Tat Tat Karma Pravartanat, fourth item. Yes. So, we were reading yesterday up to the point of giving up the company of non-devotees. Remember? We were discussing that. That was item number 12. So now we're going on to item number 13. To refrain from accepting many disciples. Let's think about this one and talk about it a little. To refrain. This is one of the 64 limbs of bhakti. To refrain from accepting many disciples. What has been our experience in this regard? You're afraid. You're practically afraid to even mention the topic.
So those that one does accept for disciples, one has to care for, and if one doesn't have the potency to accept many disciples and thus properly care for them, then that becomes a big trouble to both the disciple and the so-called guru. So, I mean, I could, as you know, I could give you specific examples of what has happened when that principle has been
still happening.
Violated. Yeah.
Still happening, and will not stop happening.
All right, because it's obvious if it's mentioned 500 years ago, it's current, then it will probably be current forever. It's a perennial problem, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. So there's a lot of different adjoining aspects of this topic. Because here it's simply saying to refrain from accepting many disciples. So who is being told to refrain from accepting many disciples?
The devotee.
That's right. The person who's reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking this to who? Srila Sanatana Goswami. And Srila Sanatana Goswami later on took what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had instructed and he wrote Hari Bhakti Vilas. All the rules and regulations for the Vaishnavas. And all of these points are discussed in great depth. But the general principle here is to refrain from accepting many disciples. We still see, though, that there are certain personalities, even from the time of Narottam Das Thakur, the six Goswamis, they did not accept many disciples. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj says they're the Shastra Gurus. They did not come in contact very much with the general mass of people because they're giving the Shastras. And, of course, the Rasa Shastras especially. But they were assigned with this service by Mahaprabhu to live in Braj and there to write these books. So they are setting all the standards and all the rules and regulations for the next thousands and thousands of years. So now we also see that there is the consideration of Kala Desha Patra. You know what Kala Desha Patra means?
Time, place, and space.
Yes, Kala means time, Desh means place, and Patra means circumstance. It also means like if you are trying to give something, you have to have a container to put it in. You're giving something to someone, now you have to have a container. So Patra also means like that. The recipient, time, place, and the recipient who will receive. And this is adjustable by those personalities who are perfected, who are fully realized, who have reached the stage of perfect realization and developing even in the stage of bhav, the preliminary stage of praying. What to speak of those who are already highly accomplished and have attained praying, but they've come down to preach. So, on one side, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told, Jaridako Tarikaho Krishna Upadesh. Amar Agyai Guru Hoya Tar E Desh. You know that statement? This is one of two or three very famous statements of Mahaprabhu that pertains to his instructions to all of his future followers. And this is very, very simple. It's the basis of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching mission. Jari Dako Tari Koho Krishna Upadesh. Whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna. Jari Dako means whoever you see, whoever you happen to meet. Tell them about Krishna. Mahaprabhu is very fervent in wanting his followers to spread this message, to spread these teachings, to make the whole world, give them the opportunity to hear about Krishna. That's the main thing, Krishna Upadesh. The instructions about Krishna, from Krishna, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and all. And then in the next line, after he has made this statement, he says, Hajari Dako, that means whoever you meet. Tari Kaho, speak to them. Kaho means tell them. Krishna Upadesh, tell them the teachings of Krishna. And then in the next line, he says, Amar Agyai. You know what Agyai means?
Instruction, order.
My order. Agyai means order. Mahaprabhu is given an order. Amar Agyai Guru Hoya. Guru Hoya means become Guru. Guru Hoya, become Guru. And Tar E Desh. What does that mean? Tar E Desh. Tara means to deliver. To deliver the land. That means this land, where you are, where you live, deliver the land, deliver the jivas in that land. This is the standing order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and it will never, ever change. So we've seen that because some of our greatest acharyas, in the modern era especially, they took this up with such earnest. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhakti Vinod Thakur started the whole movement to bring this knowledge to the Western English-speaking people, followed by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who established an entire mission which would be the model through which the jivas could receive the message of Mahaprabhu through the Gaudiya Mat. And then his disciple, Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj, he brought it to the West, and with a very sincere pioneering effort, he did anything and everything to somehow or other give this message to the Western people. And he did that for years and years before he even came to the West, through writing and so forth. And when he then started the movement, he became Jagat Guru, traveling the entire world, accepting thousands of disciples. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also accepted thousands of disciples. Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, thousands of disciples. Our Srila Gurudev, tens of thousands of disciples. So, in light of all that, this consideration, here it's being told to refrain from accepting many disciples. I'd like to hear. Seems maybe some contradiction. I don't know. How do we understand this?
There's different types of gurus. When Prabhupada sent us out, he sent us out basically as Vartma production of gurus. So we'd go into new places and just, for the first time, present Krishna consciousness, trying to bring to the authentic guru. But the authentic guru, in Prabhupada's case, in Gurudev's case, could have tens of thousands of disciples and personally care for them. Due to
Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Shri 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 Radha Govinda.
They had the mystic prowess to be able to do that, to have a personal relationship with each and every one of those disciples who felt cared for, and internally could be cared for them forever, even after their disappearance. Whereas another level of disciple, even let's say a Madhyam Guru, can accept a dozen disciples and care for them like that. They have that power to do, and they're not going to fall down, they're just going to continue going up. So that's another category of guru. Shiksha Guru, I guess, of any type.
Many types.
Like that. But there is a differentiation between somebody like Gurudev and Prabhupada. And
so who is this being spoken for? Who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioning this for? To refrain from accepting many disciples. Who is the audience to whom he's speaking this?
To the practitioner, the one who's beginning the practice of Bhakti Yoga. So that would be.
But only beginners? The 64 limbs, the list of 64 limbs of bhakti?
To those that are still in sadhana bhakti, yes. I guess.
You mean Vaidhi?
Vaidhi bhakti.
Because Raganuga is also sadhana bhakti.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
So for those that are still in Vaidhi bhakti.
But someone who's practicing Vaidhi bhakti cannot become guru?
Oh no, they can become guru, but they have to become guru according to their ability to be guru. So they can't accept 10,000 disciples, and I've seen the disaster that happened when somebody didn't have that kind of mystic power, accepted so many disciples. The disciples felt not cared for. And
is that the only criterion, whether or not the disciples feel cared for? Is that the only criterion?
Well, that's certainly a measure of it, that, you know, but again, if the guru is not qualified to accept some disciples, they'll also fall down because they can't accept that burden. It's too much. They can't take that mantle. So that we've seen also.
So then, who are the persons who should refrain from accepting many disciples? Who should follow this 13th item of the 64 limbs, that they should follow that with great caution? Who are those persons?
Those that are still under Vaidhi Bhakti or practicing, those who haven't attained perfect Krishna consciousness or Bhav. I don't know.
This is such a huge topic. Yeah, 1 second. The book, the all-time classic book, Sri Guru and His Grace, must be consulted here. The whole book is about this topic. It is exactly about this topic. Who can be Guru? All the qualifications of Guru, qualifications of the disciple, difference between Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, so many topics. It's called Guru Tattva. Very important, all important. In the various tattvas that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas must clearly understand, Tattva Gyan, Guru Tattva is the beginning. Guru Tattva is from beginning all the way through. Because the conception of Guru, it keeps on expanding. The land of Gurus. Remember that title of that chapter? The land of Gurus. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was actually thinking about Sri Guru and His Grace and trying to remember what Srila Maharaj had said about what is the mood of the Guru in accepting disciples? Like,
Yeah,
how
that
is the
also.
Guru what is the Guru's relationship to the disciple? Is it about accumulating disciples or power or anything? Or is it for the service of their own Guru and for Krishna? So what is the mood of the person who's collecting disciples? And I was trying to remember when your Gurudev was speaking here about, I remember all the devotees became a little like, I don't know, upset or shocked or something. And Gurudev said, I'm not attached to any of my disciples. And he said, I have affection for them, but I have no attachment. So what is I was just thinking about, like, maybe if the mood of the Guru is, I'm offering these, as Gurudev said, these flowers at the feet of my Gurudev and Radha and Krishna, then it's different from someone who is a sadhak, who might, start collecting disciples and think, oh, they're my disciples and they're serving me. In that case, I think Srila Maharaj really cautions against that mood.
He did, and actually Gurudev also cautioned. But yet we see something. I'm going to cite one incidence. Srila Prabhupada, with his very first disciples, there was a letter, probably around 1967 or 8, when everything was just beginning to get started. I remember reading this letter. And in the letter, there's more than one letter, actually, where he's discussing this topic. And he's also discussing the topic of establishing different levels of qualification amongst the disciples by having courses. Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Sarvabhauma. What was the final one?
Bhakti Vedanta.
Yeah, Bhakti Vedanta, right. And there's also even the term Bhakti Vedanta. It's even in his Srimad Bhagavatam and in his letters. I want all of my disciples, they will become Bhakti Vedanta, like this. So Prabhupada had a system, that was not the first time. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also had a system, you know that? He had a system of Siksha gurus amongst his disciples. There would be, the first level was called Upadeshak. That means someone who can give instructions on the Shastras, right? Upadeshak. The second level was called Maha Upadeshak, right? And then the third level was called Maha Upadeshak. In Bengali you say Maha Mahopadeshak. So different disciples were recognized by Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur of having different levels of accomplishment in the Shastras and also in Bhakti, right? So they were then given this title which designated that their position of instruction was superior to others, like that. So levels is very important to understand. There are different levels of disciples, there are different levels of gurus. And this is a very vast domain. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj was especially trying to help in this regard to the disciples who were the first ones after Srila Prabhupada left the planet that would begin to carry out this seva, this service of taking the position of the guru, right? And this is why these topics were discussed with him, because they also had many questions. It was the first time. And he tried to steer them in the right direction. Now, I wanted to also mention one thing I forgot to say when I was talking about the early letters to the early disciples. There's a letter where Srila Prabhupada is saying, he said, I want that in about 5 years from now, my disciples will also become gurus and have their disciples. You remember reading that? Yeah. 5 years from now. So Srila Prabhupada had a plan, no doubt about it. And I was in Mayapur in 1975, when that was the first big festival in Mayapur with Srila Prabhupada. We were there for about 2 weeks. And there was such a huge number of devotees that had flown in from all over the world. There was probably at least about 700-800 devotees. And Srila Prabhupada was lecturing every morning and every evening. And one day he gave a lecture in which he was, I can remember the overall theme of what he said. You could probably look it up, you know. But he was saying that now we have one guru. So he was speaking of himself in the institution. But in the future, there will be dozens of gurus. Then there will be hundreds of gurus. And then there will be thousands of gurus. And it was a kind of point at which all the devotees, they just exploded. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gurudev also wanted. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj also wanted. I could tell many, many stories. I could speak on this topic for a few days. They also knew what were the shortcomings of the disciples and so forth. But they wanted that the disciples would also become guru and take up the service of Mahaprabhu without pride, false ego, guru abhiman, I'm guru. That's a tall order, especially for neophyte devotees. But yet Prabhupada wanted, even in the early period, because it's necessary. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna, become a guru. So there's a responsibility there. But we had conversations with Gurudev that are all recorded, even on morning walks, especially once in Italy. on a pier. Gurudev sat on this long pier that goes out into the lake there, where we're having the festival. And then there was a topic that was raised at that time, exactly on this point, because many of the senior sannyasis, Western sannyasis, they were wondering. There were so many discussions at that time. The Bhakti Lata Bij, who can give the Bhakti Lata Bij, who can become Guru, etc. You know? And there's so many statements to analyze from Gurudev and from other acharyas about this topic, you know. So, Gurudev, he, in that conversation, which was, when was that? 2010, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was. It was his final time in Italy. Final time in Europe, and it was his second last festival. From there, he went back to India, and then later on, he came to Russia. Then he came back to India, 2010. And, you know, so, there have been many calamities, and there have been so many warnings to the devotees as well. But some maturity is required. It is not, Gurudev told that best is if there is madhyam. That person can take up this activity of trying to help the conditioned souls as Guru. Madhyam. Madhyam means ruchi stage. So, and there's the statements by Srila Prabhupada in his Upadeshamrita, 5th verse, at the end of his purport, where he's saying, I'll read it, actually. It would be helpful for us to review his exact words. This is from the 5th verse of the Upadeshamrita, where Rupa Goswami is writing about the 3 levels of Vaishnavas and how they should be honored. Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pranatibish chabajantam isham shushushaya bhajana vigyam ananyam anya nindadi shunya hridam ipsita sangalavdya. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone diksha, spiritual initiation, and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So we're all familiar with this verse. Here, Prabhupada is saying that in order to intelligently apply the 6-fold loving exchanges, reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, the dadati pratigrinati, one must select proper persons with careful discrimination. So Srila Rupa Goswami therefore advises that we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way, according to their particular status. In this verse, he tells us how to deal with 3 types of devotees, the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttam Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari is a neophyte who has received the Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. One should respect such a person within his mind as a Kanishta Vaishnava. A Madhyam Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Madhyam Adhikari should be considered to be situated midway in devotional service. The Uttam Adhikari, or highest devotee, is one who is very advanced in devotional service. And Uttam Adhikari is not interested in blaspheming others. His heart is completely clean, and he has attained the realized state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, the association and service of such a Maha Bhagavata, or perfect Vaishnava, are most desirable. One should not remain a Kanishta Adhikari, one who is situated on the lowest platform of devotional service and is interested only in worshipping the deity in the temple. One should not remain such a Kanishta Adhikari. Such a devotee is described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Archayam eva haraye pujamya shraddhaye hate. A person who is very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave toward devotees or people in general, is called a Prakrita Bhakta, or a Kanishta Adhikari. So one therefore has to raise himself from the position of Kanishta Adhikari to the position of Madhyam Adhikari. The Madhyam Adhikari is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 11 to 46, the verse just before Kanishta. Described in this way: Ishvare tara dineshu valisheshu drisatsu cha prema maitri kripa peksha yat karoti samadhyama. The Madhyam Adhikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love, and he makes friends with the Lord's devotees. He is merciful to the ignorant, and he avoids those who are envious by nature. These are the symptoms of the Madhyam.
So, in
Yeah.
the platform, the Madhyam platform, they can fall down to, I mean, it's not a stage where they're like steady, or is it in the spiritual life?
No, they're steady. In Madhyam stage, they're steady because Madhyam begins at the stage of Nishta. You know, Nishta. What comes before Nishta? Audo Shraddha, Tatak Sadhu Sangha, Tata Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta. So up to that point, person is in the level of Kanishta. But at the stage of Nishta, then he comes into the Madhyam stage. And these are the symptoms which, of course, we have to understand. Gurudev many times spoke about how these three general divisions are there, but within each division, there's also many levels. And Gurudev, you know, he also said, you can kind of divide those levels within each stage, within the Kanishta stage, into three. Three, and three. So, remember how he told that? Can you say what he said?
So in the Kanishta stage, one begins the practice of devotion by associating with devotees. One begins the practice Bhajana Kriya.
No, but what are the three levels of Kanishta?
Oh, okay. So
there's three levels of Kanishta, three levels of...
Kanishta, Madhyam, Kanishta, Uttam. And Madhyam, Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttam. And then Uttam.
Well, first of all, it's the stage. You say the name of the stage, Kanishta first. Right. Then you say Kanishta, Kanishta Madhyam, Kanishta Uttam. Then come to the Madhyam stage. Madhyam Kanishta, Madhyam Uttam. Then in the Uttam stage, Uttam Kanishta, Uttam Madhyam, and Uttam. So Gurudev didn't get into so much detail about what exactly is the symptom of that stage. But in general, just like in the beginning stage of Madhyam is Nishta. Then in the middle stage of Madhyam is Ruchi. And in the topmost stage of Madhyam is what? Asakti. Just before the stage of Bhav. Those three. Then, in the Uttam stage, there are also 3 levels. Those are described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. So in the Kanishta stage, not all Kanishtas are the same. And even there are those who are pre-Kanishta. Pre-Kanishta. Because they haven't really begun the practice of bhakti under regulated principles, accepting Sri Guru, accepting instructions from Vaishnavas, hearing Harikatha, and so forth. But what is the determining factor of different levels of Kanishta is the development of their faith, the development of their Shraddha. So there are Kanishtas who are very, very weak Shraddha, and they've really just begun to associate with sadhus. But they haven't yet taken up bhajana kriya. You see, the term bhajana kriya is what we're discussing here. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is that's the item of called tat karma pravartana. Bhajan kriya means to follow all these instructions as we've already read, accepting Sri Guru, that's the first one, and so forth. You see. So, but when someone comes to the higher stage of Kanishta, then that means that they've been practicing carefully. That's why Rupa Goswami is designating in this verse that Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta. You should honor them in your mind, those Kanishtas who are engaged in chanting the holy names of Krishna. So one should always honor them, because they're on the beginning level of Vaishnavas, you see, and they will gradually advance. So Srila Prabhupada gave the actual lifestyle of a full-time devotee by beginning the movement and engaging his disciples in full-time devotional services, especially preaching. He engaged disciples in that way. And he also said that he considered that if my disciples are preaching, then they will be making the most advancement that they could be making. There's a letter where he told this. I want that you should be preachers. But of course, as time goes by, they will also find their standing in the different ashrams and varnashram, and there will be corresponding duties according to that. But in the beginning, Prabhupada simply engaged everyone, all of his disciples, male, female. He used to even talk about how even the children are preaching. Saraswati, the little girl Saraswati. Remember that? How Prabhupada said, yes, and this little girl here, she's also preaching? How is she preaching? So she goes to someone, she's in India with Prabhupada, and she goes to some man, and she says, do you know who Krishna is? And then the man says, oh, can you tell me who is Krishna? Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh. So Prabhupada was very happy to see that even as a young girl, little girl, toddler practically, that she was telling like this. But, the different levels of Kanishta, it's very essential to progress from one level to another. As we just read, one cannot remain on the platform of Kanishta. Because on the platform of Kanishta is where the potentiality and the danger of committing, especially Vaishnava Parad, is there very much in the Kanishtas. And the very definition of the Kanishta is that they have faith, they have Shraddha in worshipping the deity. That's why we see in all religions, people have faith that they can go to the church, to the mosque, to the temple, and there they can have their communion with God, you see, which is good. That's a very good thing. But there's a limitation, because the ability to see and to recognize Vaishnavas is not yet developed in the Kanishta. That's the definition. Na tad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrita smrita. Prakrita smrita bhakta. Prakrita bhakta. It means still on the material level. On the material level. So, na tad bhakteshu. We were talking yesterday about giving up the association of non-devotees. And we were saying that Srila Sridhar Maharaj explained very nicely how, when someone comes to the Madhyam level, then they now become more capable of being within society and interacting physically with persons, but yet not taking their association. Whereas those who are not developed to that stage, they very easily become misguided because they listen and they don't. Yes. I'm now completing. Okay. So, at the end of this purport, which is an amazing, wonderful, beautiful purport, so there's this very famous statement. I'm just going to read this paragraph. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advises the devotee to be intelligent enough to distinguish between the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttam Adhikari. The devotee should also know his own position, and he should not try to imitate a devotee situated on a higher platform. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given some practical hints to the effect that an Uttam Adhikari Vaishnava can be recognized by his ability to convert many fallen souls to Vaishnavism. One should not become a spiritual master unless he has attained the platform of Uttam Adhikari. A neophyte Vaishnava means Kanishta, or a Vaishnava situated on the intermediate platform, Madhyam, can also accept disciples, but such disciples must be on the same platform. And it should be understood that they cannot advance very well toward the ultimate goal of life, means Krishna Prem, under his insufficient guidance. Here's the term, insufficient guidance. Therefore, this is the last sentence, therefore, understanding these points, a disciple should be careful to accept an Uttam Adhikari as a spiritual master. You see. So there's lots more to discuss in this. We could begin the entire study of Sri Guru and his grace, and probably we'll do that at some point. But first we got to finish this book. So be careful. Everyone should be careful from the position of the Guru and also from the position of the disciple. Warning is there, not to accept too many disciples. That is the general warning. But for a person on the highest level, that is not really applicable. And we've also seen, Gurudev has also told, there are no restrictions at all for an Uttam Adhikari. One who is on that highest level, perfection level. There's no restrictions. They can initiate anyone in any time, any place, any circumstances. Just like Gurudev initiated one airline stewardess. He gave her initiation. So no one can fault a pure devotee, that, this person hasn't been chanting for very long. No. For the pure devotee, he can give his mercy to anyone. Doesn't necessarily mean that all of those persons are going to advance very rapidly because he's giving his mercy, he's giving them an opportunity, he's giving them also the association of the other devotees that they can come into the process and so forth, So I'll just end there. because otherwise I'll continue talking on this topic, one point after another. Jai Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Pada ki jai, Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharika Giridhari Radha Govinda Jiyo ki jai, Shri Gaur Arti ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Jigal Arti ki jai, Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiyo ki jai. Vansha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. We're at least able to cover one more item. Jaya